Hello, and welcome to this first lecture of a new section on growth strategy case interviews. In this course on guesstimates and case interview excellence. So, what we're going to do in this section is to help you develop excellence this time in growth strategy cases to help you crack your consulting interviews. And at the end of this lecture, what you will learn is what are the frameworks for growth strategy cases. We will begin with the different questions and we will start cover them up in these lectures one by one. So in this, we will cover one of the frameworks that we will see. So let's look at what are the kind of growth strategy cases that you may have to see, you may have to solve working with your recruiter. So going from top left to clockwise direction, it could be as simple as solving a declining market share problem. Your client is a commodity chemicals manufacturer, and you need to figure out why are the market share declining. It could be a little more advanced or complex and more intricate. The client is in the apparel industry in US and wants to expand their top line. So it's from decline to its expansion, much wider scope. They need your suggestions how to achieve this growth. So that's a second kind. Third kind of a client is an elevator manufacturer. Lately, a new competitor entered the market who has been eating into the client's market share. Similar to the first one a bit, a client needs your help to devise a competitive response. And the last one could be a more very broad one in which your client is Flipkart, not a Flipkart, and they have requested your advice on a medium-term strategy for the next 3 to 5 years, right? So these are the kind of questions or cases that you might face. So how do you go about solving these, and what are the frameworks for these growth strategy cases? As we had said last time, the framework depends on the questions that you need to answer in each of these cases or such similar cases. So first you need to understand what are the questions that you want to answer, the definition of a strategy for 3 to 5 years, and the questions recruiter has in his or her mind could be very different from person to person. So we need to know what are the questions that you need to answer. And going by these four cases, there are four broad questions that we see coming up. One is addressing declining market share, and second is also addressing declining revenue. Let me clarify the differences. A declining revenue is that you have a sales revenue that is declining over the year or quarters or over the months. And whereas the market share means you are getting a smaller pie of the market share. And in this case, you could have still growing revenues but declining share. That means market is growing faster. Or you could also have a declining market share where your revenues are declining. So you need to know what exactly these questions are. The broad kind of questions is how to grow revenue, as we saw in one of the cases. So it's a very broad question. So I'm growing or I may not be growing, and how do I grow my revenue? And the fourth one is a strategy to follow in next 3 to 5 years. I'm doing very well. I'm Flipkart. What should be my strategy for next 3 to 5? Now, what is strategy? You will need to dig deep to find out what are the questions they have in mind that they want you to answer. Right. So these are the questions. So MEC could be a useful framework for finding possible causes of either the declining revenue or declining market share. And as you see, this framework could be something like this. Market share being is revenue upon market size. So you would look at both these factors could drive. It could be either the market is growing faster, revenue is not keeping track. Then the revenue is dependent on supply and demand from the company. The supply is dependent on capacity, actual production, and that physical delivery to the customers. Whereas the demand is a function of the product quality, who do you target to, what do you tell them, what's your value proposition, what's your pricing, what's your communication, what's your promotion, and finally, how do you make it product available generally? If more so in FMCG and FMCD products rather than B2B products where you would do direct distribution with delivery being the critical piece. The market again is dependent on the population. So if Indian market for let's say washing machines, so it dependent on the population in India. Second, the penetration of the washing machines in India, and third is the income of the population. So Larger the population, grow higher growing the population, larger the penetration improving or income improving would have a market growing, and if otherwise, if they are stagnant, the market could be stagnant. So we need to find out what are the possible causes, as we do in MSE cases, in the profitability, as we did in the profitability cases. Same method can be applied in find the root cause of the declining revenues or market share. And as we had said in profitability cases, problem analysis will be a wonderful tool. As you see here, it can help you define the problem correctly, which is what you will need to do. And that's what the recruiter will look for. Are you defining the problem correctly? Then help you ask the right questions. Again, the recruiter is very much interested in seeing you ask the right question. And finally, they are interested in finding the root cause. So this framework can help you find the root cause of the problem that you have stated correctly. And then obviously they would be interested in finding the solution. That's where they would start. So this framework that you see of quick decision analysis can help you find the recommendation to solve the problem, to eliminate the root cause of the problem. And following the steps will help you show your thought process to the recruiter so that he or she can understand that, yeah, you understand how to eliminate the root cause. Are you looking at the options, and are you really solving the problem in a systematic manner? So that's how this third framework also could be useful for making recommendations. So how can we solve these cases, the two types of cases of declining revenue, declining market share? How can we use these three cases as, and the methodology is similar to or same as practically as we saw in the profitability case solving. So you would start with asking the question, stating the problem and confirming. So you would define the problem, ask questions about the problem to clarify the problem using the problem analysis framework. Then you would use MSE factors. You will use MSE methodology to determine the factors that drive the outcome, right? That can solve the problem, that drive the factor. Then you ask questions to describe the problem in detail, and that's where you start discovering possible solution and then possible causes, and then you determine the probable causes, confirm the root cause with the recruiter. Then you go on to develop alternatives that can eliminate the root cause, and then determine the best solution among those alternatives. So that's the framework. Very same framework as we saw in the profitability cases, but the frameworks would be different. So having looked at one set of framework, one framework that can be used for answering the declining market share and declining revenue to develop those growth strategy, what do we do next? So in the next, we will look at the framework for a broader question of how to grow revenues, how to increase revenue. So thank you so much for watching this first lecture of this section on growth strategy case interviews in this course on guesstimates and case interview excellent. I hope you're beginning to learn something new, beginning to enjoy again, and I look forward to see you again in the next lecture.